There are many people who want to be a member of the church, but they don't want to be involved in the church. They want to, many people want to be known that they're a member of a church, and they put it down as, every president of the United States is a member of some church. We want to be affiliated with the church, and yet it's not, it's sort of like just something that we hang on to, but we're not really interested in it. And so, on the contrary, they have only one thing on their mind, and that is to remove the removal of their reproach. You know, there are some times that when a person is in sin, or that we've got a lot of people when I was in Altoona, when they got in trouble with their wife, and the wife indicated they were going to get a divorce, the husband decided to come to church. I mean, it's the first time he'd been in church. He's never been, but when his wife came all the time, and she said, "I'm getting really tired of this, the way you're treating me." And the next Sunday he was in church. And the only reason he showed up for church was that he wanted the reproach removed from him.
Yep.
When a person is in jail, usually you get a call from the jailer saying such and such wants to see a pastor, and the pastor wants to go down and he wants to get his life straightened out. So it seems like that they're trying to remove the reproach by associating themselves with the church. And sometimes, I remember Bob Harrington who sold insurance. I don't know if you ever evangelist Bob Harrington. And he said he was an insurance salesman. And so he would go to a church, and as he was sitting there, he would look at the deacon, and he said, I believe he's worth about $50,000 life insurance. And he would look at the pastor, he says, I believe if I talked to the deacons, I could sign him up for $500,000. So he went to church to get acquainted with people so he could have a clientele to sell insurance. And so we have different motives, different means of wanting why we attend a church, but the purpose of it is certainly not to get close to the Lord. And when a preacher or a pastor wants you to get a little close to the Lord, they want to go another direction. And so that's sort of this way. It says, "We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproaches." Is that what verse 1 says? So the idea here is that these women approaching a man and saying, "Let's cut a deal. You don't have to provide food for us. We take care of our own bread, and you don't have to provide any clothes for us. We will provide our own robes. So I'll come to your church, but you don't have to provide me with any of your sermons." I mean, I want to come to your church, but don't expect me to really listen to your sermons. Because I will provide my own bread, my own nourishment. I don't need your notes because I have my own set of lessons that I like to deal with outside the church. But I want to be a member of your church. And I remember people coming and says, I just need someplace where I can put my name on a church roll. I don't plan on coming, sir, but I would like to be a member of your church, but I don't plan on coming.
One lady said, because I want my name to be on a church roll when I die. Now, I'm not going to be coming to your church, but I just want you to put my name on your membership list so that when I die, they can say that I was a member.
Or when, when you used to go to the hospital, they would say that one of the questions they would ask you, they can't ask you now, is what clergy would you like to come visit if you get sick? And I've had, I don't know how many times, the people from the church would call and say, so-and-so is in the hospital, and she's requested that you are her. I said, who? What was her name? I've never heard of her. Yes?
On our assessment forms, whenever they have a patient that gets something from Genesis, there's a spot where they ask them what denomination they are, like it's Baptist or Protestant or Catholic or whatever. They ask them that.
They really do?
It's on our papers, it's still there.
I'm an atheist. Might as well be honest.
There's probably a spot for
Yeah.
that if they want to put it.
And so, what we did was, we have very few members in our church. The qualification of membership in our church is you have to come. If you don't come, you're not a member.
That's right.
That doesn't mean you can't go tell. Someone says, I'm a member of so-and-so church. I said, do you know the pastor? I go to the First Baptist Church in Altoona. I said, you do? You know the pastor? He was talking to me. She didn't know who I was. Oh, that was interesting. And then I pastored one church, and they had 483 members. Guess how many showed up my first Sunday? 44. And 90% of them had not been in that church in 20 years. Half of them had died. But they still were, quote, members. And I said to the congregation, let's get rid of all the people who are not coming. And when I came here, unfortunately, it made me so sad when I saw 198 members, and I only saw about 25 coming. That hurt my feelings because I wanted those others to come.
Sure.
I'd have loved for them to come. I didn't, but if they're not going to, so if you don't show up, you're not a member. Because I'm responsible for you. If you're in our church roll, then God holds me responsible for you. And I'm supposed to pester you when, And so that's the reason I moved out to McDermott, so I could be closer to one of my other good members. And she feeds me well, and I've been real pleased with her. She has done well. She's fed me supper a couple times, and we're just real happy about that. But well, you don't have to be very deep in theology here to see the significance here. After all, Proverbs 14:34 says what? Proverbs 14:34. You want to see that? Proverbs 14:34. I want you to look at that verse. Richard, you want to read that?
14:34.
Yes.
Righteousness exalts a nation, that sin is a reproach to any people.
There is we all fall into certain kinds of behavior that we don't like, and it's a reproach. There are a few things in my life that I just wish I could get off my FBI list, and it could be a reproach to you, and you don't want those on your list of things that you do, and so people try to cover up the reproach by joining an organization so that they no longer have that reproach. Reproach of guilt. Sure, there are women who want to be the bride of Christ, but only on their own terms. Yes, I'll join your church, but on my terms. I'm not going to come Sunday night. I'm not going to come Wednesday night. I'm not going to gift. I'm not going to read my Bible. I'm not paying attention to you. I'll just do my own thing. Well, honey, go somewhere else. Go join the army. You can do exactly what you want to do when you join the army, right?
Right.
One girl says, I'm tired of being bossed around by my family. I'm going to join some places. I can be my own boss, and she joined the army. Wasn't that dumb? She found out very quick that did not work.
Nope. You can't get out.
I mean, back then you couldn't get it. You can now. But I'm just saying is that we want to do our own thing.
Yeah.
You don't want, when you join the church, actually you should be a Christian first.
Right. Amen.
And as a Christian, you'll want to serve Christ. That's an amazing thing. And the number 7 is used in regard to these brides to remind us that the perfect description of the total failure in churches claiming to be Christian is in this concept of marriage license only. Only the paper. Is marriage only a paper? 2 people I know on Facebook, Winston and his wife have been married 47 years, and Dolly, who I went to high school with, her and her husband have been married 31 years, and it seems to be more than just a paper. I can show you my paper of marriage, but Charity wants more than a paper. She wants a relationship. It's a relationship. It's just not a paper. It's a paper without submission, a paper without respect, a paper without obedience is worthless. So to have a membership in any organization Well, I've been a member of the Goose for 25 years. I've never shown up, but I'm a member of the Goose. Well, go join the lodge.
Goose?
I'll say, just, whatever floats your goat. Whatever floats your goat, whatever.
He's always a-
Every year in the U.S., there are at least 50,000 couples who are married just for citizenship. I know a bright young man, his name is, who has several years of waiting for his green card with no possibility of to run his own business without a legal paper, decided to take this shortcut. He found a lady somewhere in Atlanta, 20 and some years older than him, accepting to marry him for $10,000 in cash. Boy, I would, man. And the marriage, he got a marriage license and his green card, but they live in different cities. With no relationship with the bride, started a business, big mistake. She transformed him into milking cows, blackmailing him. And so there are times that happens. You have a membership in another city. You live in a marriage in another city. It's just on paper. And that's what happens in relationships. 7 women, in an attempt to take hold of one man, Christ, only to get relief from their guilt and condemnation of their sins, they don't want intimacy with him. They want nothing more than forgiveness, to have the reproach of sin removed, to deceive others around them about the status of high regard. Remember this, what was this guy that had committed all these crimes recently? Over, what was his name, over the last 25 or 30 years, and he would kill people and bury them, but when they finally caught up with him, he was a regular member of a regular church, and everybody thought he was such a wonderful guy. While every 3 or 4 years he'd go out and kill somebody and come back.
That was in Wichita.
Wichita, Kansas. In Wichita.
Was he a Baptist too?
He was on Lutheran deacon.
But they all were so shocked because the reproach had been removed. He was trying to cover up his sin. He was trying to cover up his reproach. And he'd been doing this every 10 years.